let me give you an example of that. Now, this is going to really impress you being a real science guy, Jeff, but you're sitting next to one of the world's experts on the effects of arginine vasotocin on water transfer through the pelvic patch of the western toad. No, I'm not kidding. I am one of the world's experts on that topic. Ran a whole research lab, on that for a number of years as a biologist, and but I say that really to impress you. But secondly, to highlight this narrowness of scientific investigation. Now, so those are the kinds of things I studied in a lab, and some of the professors who are running the lab, they'd walk in and they studied the pelvic patch of the western toad too, and they would feel the ability to pontificate on just about any topic in the lab. They'd move from history to current events to philosophy. And honestly, I had actually studied a little bit of philosophy and theology, and I was usually snickering in the corner because they weren't getting it even close to right. Based on that scenario, help us understand the situation with folks like Hawking and Dawkins. What do you make of that? This seminar uses their names, so let's make sure we address what's going on in their minds and writings.
I've got to say, I haven't read a whole lot of Dawkins just because he's outside my physical or my scientific discipline, but I've read Stephen Hawking's latest book, The Grand Design with Mlodinow, and I read Lawrence Krauss's latest book, The Universe from Nothing. And the thing that I found interesting, being a scientist and being very much a part of that, my discipline is better than your discipline mentality, is that they both start off their book saying philosophy is pointless or philosophy is dead, and then they go through their book making a whole bunch of philosophical statements. That it's very easy to say, okay, by knowing my little knowledge, I've got the corner on things, not appreciating that this really is a very complex discussion. And I know enough philosophers, and I'm good friends with a few of them, that they just look at things very differently than I do. And by being able to interact with them, I get a far more complete picture of how things actually work. And so I think some of it is there's this snobbery almost that comes with being a hard scientist, physics, chemistry, that tends to, I understand the pontification that goes on, but I think we end up missing because there are people who studied those other disciplines well and really do make great contributions. So.
Yeah. The first third of Hawking and Mlodinow's book is a discussion of scientific realism versus anti-realism, which is a deep philosophical question. And they say that, or approach this after saying that philosophy is dead and has nothing to say. It's just astonishing. How can they be so blind? Sir Martin Rees, who is the Astronomer Royal, has said publicly, so I'm not saying anything that he hasn't printed. He said, I've known Stephen Hawking for over 40 years. And he said, Stephen has no firsthand acquaintance with theology at all. And therefore, his statements about philosophy and theology really don't have any sort of expertise behind them at all. It's just that in our culture, scientists have become such authority figures, almost a priesthood, where they can pronounce on all areas, even outside their narrow areas of specialization. And so often, these pronouncements are philosophically naive and really outrageous and quite mistaken.